Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse today, Friday, December 13th, 2024. Now, of course, you know, on the big dockets that we're covering, on the Diddy docket, his application for a laptop was granted by Judge Subramanian. Quite an extensive amount of access, actually, compared to other inmates. 7.5 hours every day, and the list of legal visits will not be provided to the prosecution. Next week, both Diddy and Eric Adams are due to appear in court. But in the interim, we're back to where we began, and the courtroom that we love the most, the magistrates' court, in which yesterday, on the international front, there were 3 guys, and they were guys, extradited in from Morocco on a fentanyl importation and money laundering charges. 2 of them had Russian translators, 1 had a Chinese translator. You can find this on Inner City Press, but also the first case that I've seen in SDNY of a Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang. Yes, a man named Mr. Castro, charged with carjacking conspiracy. He'd initially been put in immigration custody, but then he was brought back. I guess they're going to prosecute him if they win, jail him, and then deport him. Tren de Aragua case. This is at the same time that Eric Adams, mayor of the city of New York, met with Holman and then got a variety of questions in City Hall. We cover all of these things, and we also cover the Federal Reserve. Check it out. Yesterday, a case by San Juan Bank International against the Federal Reserve. They had their master account closed by the Fed, and they're trying to get review, and the Fed says pretty much they can do anything they want. They say the Federal Reserve Bank of New York is not the government, and so there can be no Fifth Amendment or other review of their decisions. It's weird because they're providing governmental services. They're approving bank mergers, for example, and yet they're not the government. Hard to understand. Also hard to understand why they had to hire an outside law firm. They hired Simpson Thacher to represent them. Simpson Thacher, which represents banks applying for bank merger approvals. Seems like a conflict of interest. You can find the story on Inner City Press. Now, it's pretty cold here in New York, but we're going to, later today, be covering a sort of, I don't know if it's the Super Bowl, but a sort of very prime example of UN corruption. Later today, on South Street here in Lower Manhattan, Antonio Guterres will appear at a fundraiser, $1,000 being spent, selling access of the UN Correspondents Association. This was a previous event that when Inner City Press, while still covering the UN from inside, as a resident correspondent, exposed the participation, the purchase of a table by Eng Lap Seng, subsequently convicted of UN bribery right here in the SDNY. Well, who will be today's Eng Lap Seng? We're going to be, cold or not, we're going to cover this event, and you're going to see it. Let this be the last gasp of UN corruption. I don't know if it's true, but litmus tests are coming, and we'll be reporting it all. But for now, going in, probably to the Mag Court, but also there's a FUBO hearing, there's the sentencing of a guy convicted of Afghan, really Taliban, heroin distribution and paying bribes to the Taliban, named Mr. Manaf. We're going to be covering that, but we're going in. Inner City Press. If we don't do another, we'll do a broadcast from the Unca thing, but in any event, have a good weekend. Inner City Press.